welcome to my Lunch and Learn. Today we're going to be discussing Medicaid mishaps. If you're online watching this and you have questions or you want to pop in and ask something, go right ahead. I'm not sure how you do that, to be perfectly honest, but I do see a comment list. So if you want to write a comment, I guess I can reply to a comment. So with us we have two lovely ladies from First Stat. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure.
Cool. Turn the camera
Hi,
over.
I'm Kristen McHugh with First Stat, and with me is
Hi, I'm Connie McKenzie with First Stat RN Care Management Services.
Perfect. So, and again, I'm Yoni Markov, and good morning. So when we talk about Medicaid, we always have an issue or a problem with Medicaid is that the general population just does not understand or even know about Medicaid. They assume it's Medicare. We can always start with that preference or presumption. Everybody just assumes Medicaid is Medicare. So I talk to seniors, oh no, I have Medicaid. I got it, I have my card. No, what you have is Medicare. And so then there's a little bit of educational issue there that we need to educate them on as to what is Medicaid, then what actually Medicaid pays for, and more importantly, what Medicare does not pay for. Because people very rarely actually know what, that Medicare does not pay for long-term care. Oh no, it's paying for, the rehab. No, it's paying for 21 days of your rehab.
yeah.
And then they're going to stick you with a bill, and so that's always one of the issues that we always combat. The second issue that we normally combat is pricing. Okay, we get clients with $150,000, $300,000, $400,000, and they honestly believe that the fees that we charge, which are not, I want to say nominal, but they're very reasonable fees. We have flat fee basis, usually somewhere between $500 to $7,500, is too much. And I have to sort of explain to them, well, yes, but look at the benefits you're getting. So you're getting an ROI or return on investment for my fees within 2 to 3 months of getting on Medicaid. So, you show me another investment where you're going to get a 100% return within 3 months. It just doesn't happen. But what happens is invariably some of our clients, there are olives in there.
It's okay.
You don't like olives?
No, but I love the sandwich, so thank you. Don't worry about me, I'm happy.
So invariably our clients will try and find, as you can always, what do they call the person who graduates last in medical school? We still call them doctor. So they'll find,
Oh yeah, good
like
point.
that one.
Yeah, that's
So
good.
they'll find some hack, and I'll call it a hack, to do the Medicaid strategy and to say that we're going to do the Medicaid application. They don't do it right, and the application, if it's not done correctly, will sit at the ADRC, the Aging Disability Resource Center. You're nodding your head. Yes, it'll sit there for 2 years without.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, I'm not.
Might not even
my
get
goodness.
correspondence with them.
Oh my goodness.
Is that an accurate statement? Kind of, it will sit there for 2 years. And I say this. I sit on the board. I'm a voting member of the executive board for Miami ADRC, and I'm the chair of their advisory council. So now that, and I've been doing this for about 6 months, and now I'm sitting there, I'm getting like a real true insight into how they work, or perhaps how they could work better. And yeah, those applications are sitting there for 2 years plus. And so what happens is, the hack attorney that's charging them $1,500, all they've done is just throw in the application and fire and forget, and they don't do anything with it. So yes, you can always find somebody cheaper to do the brakes on your car. But I'm not sure you necessarily want to go to, run, some chop shop down in I don't want to, some chop shop somewhere to fix your brakes. Same thing when it comes to Medicaid planning, Medicaid strategies, is that you can always find an attorney who will do it cheaper, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's better. And by the same token, more expensive doesn't always necessarily mean it was better either.
Right.
I got a very nasty email, a flurry of emails going back and forth and letters about 6 months ago from a well-established attorney up in West Palm. Been doing this for 25 plus years, has his son now doing it as well with him as elder law and does Medicaid planning. We actually had to, I fired a client, and I do this maybe once a year. I actually have to fire a client where they're just not being cooperative. We lay out a strategy, they're not actually doing the strategy. So I have to write them a non-compliance letter. And I send it certified non-compliance letter says, hey, we've laid out a strategy. You are not implementing the strategy. You're not executing on the documents. You're not doing what we're telling you to do. It's jeopardizing your Medicaid. And invariably, 70% of the time, they get on the ball and they start doing what they need to do. 30% of the time, the client will say, well, then F you, I'm done.
Mm-hmm.
And that's fine, that's their choice. And they went to another attorney. So they were putting the mother into an assisted living. So if you're familiar with the program, with the way it works, there's something called a PASSER, which is a pre-assessment something, which is used only if the person is going into a nursing home. And it's an assessment to make sure that they are actually needy for a nursing home.
Okay.
But they qualify.
Right, because it's so expensive, and the state's paying for it through Medicaid, so that's why they do it. Well, so this well-established attorney where the mom is going into an ALF that doesn't have PASSERs is, emailing me, I want the PASSER reports now. I need it. And I email back, and I'm like, well, Joe, as well established as you are, I'm sure you're also aware that there is no PASSER because they're not going into a nursing home. So maybe if you had actually done, and this is where I got a little nasty, maybe if you actually done your intake and realized that they're not going into a nursing home, there's not going to be a PASSER. And so then he emails back and says, of course there's a PASSER. Whether it's ALF or nursing, there's a PASSER.
Oh my gosh.
So I just gave him, I said, okay, I understand what you're saying. Here's the phone number to the ADRC of West Palm. Go call them. Because there is no PASSER. So my point is, even more expensive doesn't necessarily mean better either. But anyway, we're going to talk about two strategies today, or two issues today that really can mess up a Medicaid application. Okay, what?
No, I'm just interested because, we have clients that apply for it. So.
Yeah. So the first is what I say an internal, meaning it's the actual strategy. So what happens is, as a Medicaid planning attorney, we sit down with the families. We go through a pretty extensive 15-page intake. And I call it intake information form, however you want to. And it really goes through not just, okay, well, what are your assets? It goes through and says, okay, how much do you have in CDs? When are they going to mature? How much is it on IRA? Is it on RMDs, or is it on required mandatory distributions already? The whole gamut of what their assets are, as well as their incomes and their liabilities. Well, a lot of attorneys some attorneys will do that. Even those that do that, then they'll just create a generic strategy not tailored to that family's needs. Right. So for instance, there was an attorney up here in Aventura that I helped him on a case because he got into the weeds on the case after he already did everything. Is when he called me to help him. He put a 92-year-old, 92-year-old guy going into a nursing home in a pool trust. Put $400,000 into a pool trust. The problem with the pool trust is that the strategy is not really geared for that person. Okay? And the reason is that a pool trust, much like a Medicaid annuity, there's a payback provision. So if the person passes away and there's money left in that pool trust, it doesn't go back to the family. It goes back to Florida Medicaid. So now when you're talking about a 92-year-old who has failing health issues, right. You've basically just written a check for at least $200,000 or $300,000 to Florida Medicaid.
Oh my goodness!
It's not debt based. If he only lives in there 1 month, it's still the same.
Well, no. Okay, so let me reiterate. Yes, it is debt based in the sense that they are first going to recoup their costs,
right,
as a reimbursement. Then, if there's any money left over, it can go back to the family, and that is accurate, but not in a pool trust.
Okay.
Yes, for an annuity, okay, but in a pooled trust, it is up to the joinder agreement of that particular pool trust as to what they do with their surplus funds. Some of them will swallow it, okay, and use it for their indigent clients. Some of it Some of them will actually return
Okay.
the money back to the families. Some of them will return part of the money back to the families, but they don't have to, because it's all based on what their joint agreement is, and their joint agreements always say it's non-refundable.
Wow.
So yeah, that is a perfect example of a strategy failed for that particular client.
Mhm.
You know, you have a 92-year-old, you know, what we would do instead is look into, you know, like what we call a reverse half-love. Okay,
Hmm.
so
A reverse
a reverse half-love.
half
I've
loan.
never heard of that.
I've never either.
So
Like a reverse mortgage.
yeah, sort of, kinda.
Huh.
Is exactly what it is. So if a prospective Medicaid client gifts money away, or assets, or
Mhm.
you know, whatever that may be, there is a penalty period that's incurred by that gift, assuming we're applying and there's no 5-year look back, because
Okay.
we're within that 5-year period of the look back. The way we do the penalty is we take the average cost of nursing home in Florida, divided by the amount of the gift, and we
Okay.
get a numerical value. That numerical value is how many months the person will be expected to self-pay.
Hmm.
So in Florida, it's $9,000. It went up actually this past year, but it's $9,000 for average nursing home cost. So if you give a gift of $90,000,
Mhm.
you are going to incur a 10-month penalty.
Okay.
And that 10-month penalty is from the time of application, 10 months forward, you have to self-pay.
Okay.
Okay, so now, here's where it works very well. If you get $90,000, you gift it away, you've incurred a 9-month penalty. I'm sorry, 10-month penalty. Okay, the divisor is based on the nursing home cost. If the person's going into an assisted living, even say a 5-star, which is roughly around $4,500 a month, there's still a $4,500 differential. So if they pay 10 months
Mhm.
at $45,000, okay, $4,500 times 10 months times 10 is $45,000. Half of that money is still now saved.
Mhm.
Does that make sense? What I'm
If they
saying?
qualify though, for assisted living versus.
If they qualify for
Right,
assisted
right,
living,
right,
Mhm.
okay.
right. Well, yeah, you put them on a walker and you shoot them off,
Uh-huh.
and they'll qualify for the 40 steps. But yes, that's where it kicks in. But this is where the plans need to be tailored to the individual.
Mhm.
You know, and just
We
doing
talked about this when you were
and just doing it blanketly. Oh, okay, we're going to do it
right.
as a pool trust, or even as a personal services contract. Not everybody is, you know, you may not have adult children. They may not live down here.
Mhm.
You know, they may be working full time. You do a personal services contract and you put in $250,000 with an adult child that's down here that's working full time for Office Depot.
Mhm.
DCF is going to say, well, wait a second, how are they
Mhm.
doing 48 hours a week with their parent? That doesn't quite add up.
Okay.
They're not working 88-hour weeks. So it still needs to be truly tailored to the family and to the individual. What I always say is that, and it's actually right on the engagement letter, we are creating a strategy for the benefit of the client. The client is the person who's applying for Medicaid, not necessarily the family.
Family
Yeah,
who's waiting for the
that's-
money.
Correct.
Right. That's
Correct.
important to have.
What I say to the family is we basically pre-inherit your money. So instead of getting inheritance at time of death, we're doing that inheritance today. And that's how we do the strategies. And that's how I explain it to the family, so it's a little bit easier for them to
I like
understand
that,
it,
yeah.
Mhm.
that they're getting pre-inheritance. But with that in mind, and that said, it's not always synchronous as to their two interests. Sometimes the applicant's interest and the family's interest butt heads a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
Sometimes. Not always, but sometimes. And we need to be cognizant of that. And at the end of the day, and it's right on my engagement letter, it's the applicant who's the client, not the
Mhm.
family. Even if the
Exactly.
family actually wrote the check and paid for it and everything, it's
And that's hard to digest a lot of times for the family
It is.
members.
it is. We actually have not, honestly, we have not come across that issue all that often. The issue we do come across is when you have 2 or more adult siblings
Mhm.
and they're not getting along.
Yeah, the conflict.
And then, you know, our strategies are basically stalled because nobody can figure out what they want exactly. Actually, what I do then is there's a wonderful girl lady. She does elder mediations. Do you know her? Suzanne Hale?
No.
Mm-mm.
All right, Suzanne, I'm going to give you a plug. Let me turn this off since nobody's plugged in. Suzanne, I'm going to give you a plug right now. Suzanne Hale up in West Palm does elder mediations. That is her and her partner's forte,
Oh.
and they've been very good. I've sent a few clients over to them, and they sit with the families and they do a mediation.
Mhm.
It's
Figure
a,
out
it's
all
a,
the,
what's that?
they figure out who's,
What to do.
yeah,
and
what's
all the-
important,
Yeah.
Correct.
help them refocus.
Correct, and help them
Wow.
refocus, and they specialize with senior mediations. So her phone number is 561
Mhm.
408
Mhm.
0001.
Thank you.
Suzanne, you're welcome.
Mhm.
And she'll travel too. Like she came down here once for mediation,
Okay.
2 or 3 months ago, so
Okay.
she'll travel down here.
I was going to ask you that
Mhm.
before you mentioned her name. I was going to ask you when you have, let's say adult children that are fighting, do you then refer out? That was going to be my question for you. When something's contested.
I'm not a psychologist. I am not a psychologist.
Okay.
I'm a doctor. I got an JD, but I'm not a psychologist. And that's really not my, as empathetic as we are, as much as we know and understand,
Right.
I really think it's something that warrants a specialty. To really,
It's good to separate the issues too, so they see you as the legal
right,
professional.
Yeah, that's important.
right.
Okay.
And that's true too. So the reverse half loaf, so you take the $90,000, you move it over, and then the family then pays the ALF directly out of that gift. So they've incurred the penalty, but because they're not going into a nursing home, there's a differential in that divider. And that's where they actually make the money back, if you will, which is very interesting. I actually have a spreadsheet that I use on nearly every client for reverse half loaf to see if it'll work.
I've never heard that before.
Yeah.
I never.
Yeah.
I remember the first time we met. I knew, like, from our conversation, you're very bright, and you just
Well, thank you.
I.
Well, I'm sorry, say that again?
No, you're very bright. But when you were going through and you were talking about how customizing and just different strategies that you have is very
A
important.
lot of people don't, a lot of attorneys simply don't, they're not, what's the word? They run a mill,
Yeah.
is probably a better way to say it. And I'm not knocking attorneys. I mean, there are good ones and there are not so good ones, like anything else.
Every profession.
Like
Right.
in every profession, and some of them run a mill and they really don't care, all that much. The second place that a Medicaid can really go wrong is in the handholding, what I call the handholding. So we've created the documents, okay? We've created the strategy and the documents that go along with that strategy. We've brought them into the office, we've explained it to them, we've signed it, we've notarized it, we make copies, it's in our server, we give them a binder so that it's all in one place and they go home. Now they have a couple of steps to do, okay? So if it's a qualified income trust, because if their income is over 2205, we need to create a qualified income trust. Well, just creating it is not enough. You actually need to go to the bank, open an account, and every month move the money into that account that is greater than 2205 of their income. And 2205 is not a lot. It's Social Security, a pension, and a VA, and you're well into the 3500 range. So 2205 is not a lot of money. Typically, a full Social Security is somewhere around 1800.
Yeah.
And if you add a pension or an IRA or something else, and they're over that amount. So any amount greater than 2205 goes into this qualified income trust, the QIT. And then they use QIT to pay for the ALF.
Okay.
Again, a QIT also has a payback provision. Whatever money's left in there, it's a use it or lose it. If it's left in there at the time of death, it'll go back to Medicaid, to Florida Medicaid. I know. But you know what? But they're getting all these free benefits too.
Yeah.
I mean, they're getting,
They couldn't afford them without establishing that.
Correct. So what a lot of attorneys do, and I know this because we had a client 2 weeks ago that came to us, they just simply create the QIT and say, here you go, and you're done. Never informing them what the next steps are.
They never used it. They never used
So here's an attorney in Hollywood. I'm not gonna say his name because I'm also online and stuff, but here's an attorney in Hollywood. He's well known. He does, a lot of estate planning, a lot of Medicaid planning. Never told the family how to use QIT, just gave it to them. They never funded it. A year later, they're coming up for renewal. There's a Medicaid renewal every year. So Medicaid is now asking for 3 months bank statements, which they don't usually do. And they're seeing that he's way over the limits from the income standpoint every month. And so DCF is saying, okay, well, where's the QIT? And they just give them, and they faxed in the QIT. Oh, well, where's the account? The family's like, well, what account? Denied.
Oh, geez.
Denied on the renewal. It's not DCF's mandate to teach the families how to use what the attorney created. It's not their mandate.
Right.
They denied the renewal, and now he has this poor guy, or the family and the guy, has to go back and redo the Medicaid application. All because the attorney failed to handhold them. So they
have
came
to
to us.
start from fresh, or can they transfer the money into the QIT?
So that's what we did. So when it came to us, DCF was saying, we're denied, that's it.
Yeah.
Then they came to us.
Mhm.
And so what we did was we spoke to DCF. We're going to transfer all of the arrears that should have been transferred into the QIT and then move forward without having to redo a new application,
Okay.
just for the renewal. And they're very, not lenient, but understanding.
Not gonna be able to afford it without it, right? So.
Yeah.
And they're understanding. So like when we do a QIT, for instance, I have a whole sheet that's about yay long. It's 8.5 by 11, and I actually have the client sign it, and it's part of my scan package. And steps. Step 1, sign it. Sometimes I send it out. They can't come in,
Mhm.
and if I'm going to go to you to sign the documents, I'm going to charge you a little bit extra for it. $250 for my time to drive out.
Mhm.
And I should probably, if it's Broward at 125, Palm Beach 250, but east of 95, west of 95,
Right.
time of
Yeah,
day,
real clever,
Time is
Yanni.
money.
Yeah.
But so I just charge you $250 if I'm going to come out to you. And so what happens is the family's, oh no, we'll take care of it, and they'll go to the bank and notarize it at the bank, which is perfect. I just ask them to send me a copy of it so I can have it for the records. And so step 1 in the sheet is sign it in blue ink, notarize it. If you want to come into the office, we're happy to do it. Step 2, go to any, and I say any bank, and I'll say this online, try not to go to Wells or Bank of America. And the reason is the big banks they see the word trust and they run for the hills. They don't know what to do with it. They truly do not. I actually found a banker from TD Bank. Her branch is in Pembroke Pines. She's the only banker in all the years I've been doing this who understands how to open a qualified income trust account.
What is it titled?
It's usually titled QIT for John Smith, or John Smith's QIT, or John Smith's Qualified Income Trust. But that's how usually QIT is in,
Okay.
is in there. So Nydia is the only banker I know that has been able to actually open these accounts, understand what it is. So her and I actually have an agreement. Her phone number is on my What Now sheet. And
Okay.
it says, use whatever bank you want. If you want a recommendation, I recommend you use TD Bank with Nydia because she knows what she's doing. And Nydia's actually gone a step further. No, not everybody wants to go to Pembroke Pines. She'll email the documents to any TD Bank for the account openings to sign.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, she'll do everything by phone, sign, send them to whatever TD branch you want that's near your house,
Yeah.
open the accounts, and fund it. So step 3 is now funding. So now step 3 is, step 1 you signed it, step 2 you open the account, step 3 is also a very detailed explanation. Any amount over 2205 needs to go into this trust. And you just put it in every month, and then it can be used to pay for your medical responsibilities, ALFs and whatnot. What I always say though is that families fail to realize, and attorneys never tell them this, when you go on Medicaid, your Medicare is automatically deducted from Social Security. So the net deposit you get from SSA let's just say it's 1849. Let's say it's 1805. Use round numbers. Okay.
Okay.
Let's say you get a net deposit of 1805. Well, once you get on Medicaid, your Medicare is not going to be deducted anymore. So you're gonna get a net deposit of 1910 now. So let me say that again.
Well, the question is, if you stay on traditional Medicare and you're in a nursing home, you're
It's-
paying
you still-
fee.
No, because it still does not get automatically deducted from social.
Hmm.
It, your social increases by $104.95.
Mm,
It increases by 105,
okay.
and then if you want, you can then pay for the dual enrolled through Medicare and Medicaid.
Okay, so then you lose it back again.
You lose it back again. But the point or the problem is that if you were right on that borderline, you were let's just say your income was $22.36. So now the family's thinking, oh, all I need is $26 to put in every month, not realizing it's actually $131 because $105 for Medicare
Okay.
is no longer being automatically deducted, and they won't realize this until renewal. So step 3 is I say to the families, do formula off of 2000. Don't try to get it to
Okay.
the. It's better to overfund a QIT than to underfund, because you're going to use the money anyway for
Yeah.
their medical needs. Overfund it based off of 2000, so that there's really no wiggle room, or you're leaving yourself some wiggle room in case something happens.
Mhm.
Nobody does that. So the failed, other area that can fail is the handholding aspect. And unfortunately, it just doesn't occur nearly as much as it should. Because, you sit with a family and you're telling them about Medicaid, even the adult children, it's like going over their heads. And the reason it's going over their head is it's very complicated.
There.
It's a very complicated area of law. And their mind is not there. Their mind is, oh my God, mom is going into a rehab.
Yeah.
What's going to happen to mom?
Mhm.
That's where their energies are. Their energies are not to sit, listen to me talk about the nuances of QIT, and so it's a very complicated process. So a lot of what we have to do, and we gladly do it, is the hand-holding aspect, because it can so mess up a Medicaid down the line.
Yeah.
So, questions? I know it's a lot. See again, right?
It is, that's what I'm saying.
It's a lot of
I'm sitting here
information.
going, woo, yeah. Yeah, no, it's,
No, I think as care managers, we're also used to holding hands through every step of whatever our recommendations are. So them planning not only meet the needs that we have identified at our first contact, it's also identifying the needs and thinking forward.
Right.
Because we're in an aging process or disability. So always being mindful that if the plan's working today, it may not work tomorrow.
Correct. I actually had a care manager, very proactive the other day, tell me that every 6 months, and I don't think it's because it's a change of circumstances that's necessitated on the 3008, but just every 6 months, they go out and the DON actually reassesses their clients to make sure on a couple things. A, that the level of care is still accurate, but B, also that the care manager is the right fit for that client. So if you take like a dementia, as they age in their dementia, they may get more and more abrasive and physical.
Yeah.
Having a 95-pound care manager in the beginning might be okay, but it might not be.
You're talking about caregiver or care manager?
Well, but the care manager, it was interesting, it was the care manager actually stepping into that role to make sure that the agencies and the registries are on top of it. Because the agencies and registries are not going to do this.
Right.
So I found it very interesting.
Mhm.
I find it very interesting. So, do you want to say a few words about what First Stat is? I mean, since we are live and what,
I'll let Kristen do
Okay.
that. She does every day.
Alright.
since we are live and, you can plug
Oh,
yourself
thank you.
in a little bit.
Hello, everyone.
It's
So,
like a Jedi cup. I'm just kidding.
so again, I'm Kristen McHugh from First at RN Care Management. What we do as within the care management role is we come in and we manage the affairs of our clients. There's a variety of ways that we, come in and do this, from financially, legally, we first start off with doing an initial assessment, finding out what their needs are, with that end result being the recommendation and that plan of care that we are recommending once that assessment period's done. And like I mentioned, from a financial and legal perspective, do they have their documents? These are all questions that we're asking initially. If they do, great. We're trying to find if any loopholes, maybe they need to be updated. We always would refer out, of course, because our legal and financial folks are the experts in those areas. In terms of housing, we have great relationships with the assisted livings, skilled nursing, the facilities down here from Vero down to the Keys. And we can make recommendations. We can actually take clients out and look at facilities based on their needs, their wants. Ultimately, as care managers, we do try to keep the individual or individuals in their home. Some of the other areas we are known, FirstStat is really known for complex issues in terms of mental health, special needs. There is a very large addiction, unfortunately, issues down here in South Florida. So, we are prepped to handle that in terms of care as well. Traumatic brain injury clients.
Let me stop you for one second.
Sure.
You mean addiction like opioid?
Yes.
Let me actually do a plug.
And amongst.
So let me actually do a plug. This evening at 7:30 at North Miami Beach, the Miami-Dade Public Schools is going to have an open forum. Weird this way. There we go. Miami-Dade Public Schools have an open forum for the opioid epidemic and what's occurring, and within the schools as well. I'm not a panelist, but I sit on one of the school board subcommittees as a chair, and so I got that email the other day.
Fabulous.
Yeah, that's a huge need.
Yeah.
And then just the last of it, just to kind of go off that, is Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, dementia, Parkinson's. Our care managers obviously are very skilled, a lot of experience there. And again, we come in and kind of oversee everything that's happening in the home. And of course, the main goal there is to stabilize the situation.
How would somebody get a hold of you?
Thank you. So you can actually reach out to our Fort Lauderdale office, and that number is 954-486-1990. You can also go to our website, which is www.firstat.com.
Healthcare.
Excuse me, firstathealthcare.com. And that would be the best way to contact us.
And what would be a good client for you?
I think every case is different. I think a lot of folks, especially if they're not familiar with care management, I always like to say, there are so many different scenarios. We have clients across the board. Typical cases include something as very basic. It could be kids are, let's say, in New York. The parents are here. Kids are flying back and forth to come in, make sure that mom and dad are being taken care of and that someone's checking on them, where they could literally come and hire FirstStat to come in for, whether it's a few hours a week, a few hours a month, just to come in and oversee, mom and dad and make sure that they're doing okay and, relay the information back. I don't think that there is a particular client that I think, every case is different.
Every case is different.
Every case is different.
In my experience as an elder attorney, the best referrals for a care manager are what we call the snowbird families. We have a snowbird down here and the family's still up north. And they're going into either assisted living or nursing, and there needs to be somebody as a liaison between here and the families. And in my experience, that's really where the true value, or one of the areas of true value that a care manager provides.
Just helping families navigate all the challenges as we age, or they become disabled at a young age.
Right.
It's very complex, managing the healthcare system, transitioning to housing, stabilizing a home environment with the right level of care, going to doctor's appointments, and reporting back. So that
And even the
kids are
home
making
environment, also making the recommendations for the changes.
Mhm.
I mean, nobody has grab bars in their homes. in the toilets, so,
Right.
bathrooms, nobody had,
Homes of the future.
homes of the future,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
But today, nobody, I mean, unless somebody says, the family might not even necessarily realize that A, they need it, and B,
Yeah.
that it's an option,
Yeah.
and again, it's not, oh, wow, what a great idea. It's just one of those things that as professionals, we see it day in and day out, and we can make those recommendations. So I think we've run our course. Just saying, we have about 45 people join.
Oh, wow.
That's great.
Yeah, so this was a success. This is the first time I ever did this live,
That's
Wow,
good.
and
congratulations.
we'll see how it goes. So thank you, everybody, for joining. I don't know if you have any questions. I don't know how you ask questions. Maybe just ask it to your computer, and hopefully something will bounce back.
Bounce to you.
But if you have any questions, feel free to private message me or on my timeline. I'm happy to answer them. Thank you.